This is Caroline from Caroline's Adventure. We all face challenges in our lives. How do some people take those challenges and turn them into powerful results? Join me as we dig into a story on resilience, hope, and joy, and uncover lessons we can each use in our own lives. But before we start, please take a moment to show that 5-star rating button some love, and follow while you're there to be updated every time I release a new episode. Now, before we begin, a word of caution. On this podcast, we regularly discuss topics like sexual assault, suicide, and addiction, which may be disturbing to some. Please take care as you listen. And if you need support in the United States, reach out to the crisis text line at 741-741. Today we are talking with Simone Knego. Simone's got one of those amazing stories from traveling all over the world, climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, writing a book, lots of appearances on CBS and NBC. That's a vibrant life, but clearly that's been rooted in some kind of experience that's led you to dig for more in life. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here with you today. So I was someone who really struggled for many years with self-doubt and put up this facade. Everything's great. I have 6 kids. And so people always assumed I had it all together. I have a bachelor's and master's in accounting. I became a CPA, didn't love it. So changed my mind many times. And I'm finally where I know I was meant to be. I love what I do. I love speaking. I love writing. I love podcasting. But it was that self-doubt that was holding me back for so long. I constantly changed my mind because I never felt sure of myself. It took a moment, climbing Kilimanjaro, for me to say, you can accomplish anything you want to if you put in the work. That was a big change for me, taking that action, taking that first step and believing that I could do it. And I think that's something that holds a lot of people back, especially women, thinking that we can't do it. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping other women build confidence and get there faster than I did. Because if I could go back in time and learn what I learned in my 40s and 50s when I was in my 20s, it would have been a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. And it's tough because I know that so often when I talk with people, especially with women, that is a common theme, that imposter syndrome. And we get so good at creating a facade of what we think people expect of us. Lots of times it's some major event in our life that just strips it all away. For me, I had an accident back in 2012 where I was hit by a car while walking, and it hit the reset button on my life. I had created this very careful edifice of what I thought the perfect life was. I drove the right car. I lived in the right house. I had the right jewelry. I had the right job. I had 2 children. I had all of the things that I thought would create a happy life, but I wasn't happy. And it wasn't until I had everything stripped away. I had to relearn how to walk. My brain was impacted, completely stripped away. And I had to create it from the ground up that I realized how little of that actually serves us. When you were on Kilimanjaro, were there things in your life that you're like, you know what, when I go back, I'm not doing these things anymore. These things no longer serve me, and I'm shifting my focus onto something different?
Yeah, I think that a few things. One is the constant comparison game, right? Looking at other people's lives and thinking, why isn't mine like that? Or why doesn't my family look so thrilled every time we're on vacation? Okay, because it's a snapshot. I could make it look like that, but that's not real life. And so letting go of that comparison game, letting go of worrying about what anybody else thought, because if I know that I'm doing good things in the world, then it shouldn't matter anybody else's opinion of me. Even when I went to climb Kilimanjaro, I had people that said to me, "Oh, do you really think you're going to make it to the top?" No, I think I'm going to make it halfway. Who says that to someone? But people do, because if they can't see themselves in your shoes, then they can't see you doing it either. And I think a lot of times we let the opinions of others really guide us in a direction that isn't healthy. And those were probably two of the biggest things. Stop worrying about what anybody else is thinking. Be exactly who you are. Don't pretend anymore. If you're struggling, say you're struggling. Everything isn't just beautiful and wonderful all the time. That's not real life, right? But we can be our best selves all the time.
It's interesting how those tough times are the ones where you really grow. If my kids about it all the time, I'm like, you're not always going to win. You're either going to win or you're going to grow. And the two pieces are what are going to get you where you want to be, but it's not linear. It's easy to look at people's highlight reels and be like, oh, you know what? They started out here, they made it here. Clearly, it was effortless and they constantly saw the path and it was just one foot in front of the other. The truth is that progress is very up and down, and each valley leads to a new peak, and cumulatively they get you there. But it's not a direct start here, end here, and you're there. Are there other
Yeah.
places in your life that have set that foundation for you?
Being a mom, that's probably one of the biggest ones, right? You never have it figured out, right? And every kid is so different. And you think you have it figured out, and then it all falls apart, right? I've learned so much from parenting. And so we adopted our youngest three. So nature versus nurture and different personalities and all of the things have taught me really a level of patience that I don't ever think I realized I was capable of because you don't know those things until you're in the middle of it. You don't learn those things until you do them. That's another huge learning for me is the parenting aspect.
Parenting them through the challenges enables me to also parent my own personal growth. I didn't realize the places that I wasn't showing up for myself until I had this little mirror held up and it was like, oh, you're losing your temper right now. How do you handle that? I was talking with my daughter the other day and she was like, do you miss when we were little? And I was like, I do. But I love every single age with y'all so much. Every age is my favorite. And it's because we're growing together. It's not just that you're growing and I'm sitting back and watching the process. It's amazing to watch their growth and how it enables me to grow along with them.
Yeah, I think that's such a great way to look at it. A lot of times people look at that they're sitting behind and watching their children grow, and then they really struggle when it's time for them to move out of the house or whatever because they haven't accepted the growth that they're making as well. It's funny you talk about the mirror. During COVID, we went to Starbucks. I was with my youngest daughter, and you couldn't go in the building, but you could go through the drive-through, and there was this huge line. I was like staying back so that if people needed to park, they could get by me. And from behind me, all of a sudden, this car comes zooming in, this red SUV, and jumps the line right in front of me. And I literally lost it in the Starbucks drive through. I was out of my mind saying stuff. And my daughter looks over at me and she's like, Mom, you okay? And I was like, no, I'm not okay. You might need to reread your own book. You've forgotten a few things about kindness, compassion, and empathy. Remember, practice what you preach. And I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. But she was so right. It was what I needed to hear because I was being ridiculous. That idea of growth with your children, it doesn't just happen to them, it happens because of them as well. And the woman who cut us off ended up paying for our drinks. And then Millie ended up paying. She's, can we pay it forward? Can we buy the drinks? But for the people behind us, a great idea. It's constantly learning. It doesn't matter what age they are, you're learning from them.
And it's tough because every time I think I know how I'm going to handle a situation, something new pops up like that. And you're like, okay, like you're right. I
Yeah.
don't necessarily want to hear it, but you are right.
Yeah.
And thank you for that reminder. That's
It's
all.
a lot of times it's the what not to do. That's still part of leadership. That's still part of parenting. Here's what not to do in this situation.
And it is such a part of leadership. My master's is in leadership and strategic communication. But it's funny because in leadership, we always put people up on these pedestals, and it's the leaders that are most effective that are able to say, hey, you know what? I struggle too. Let's struggle together and move forward, as opposed to that's a tough struggle for you to have. It's amazing how in leadership, in life, in parenting, the more that I show them that I'm human and that I've never been a parent before. This is my first go at this as well. I'm learning just like they are. They're learning how to be kids and how to be adults. I'm learning how to be a parent and how to parent young adults. And there is no guidebook that says, here's how you do it and here's how you screw it up. I would give anything for one that was like, okay, don't do these things because these are going to be the things that you screw up. Do these things instead. That would make life so much easier.
But do you think it would actually work? My theory is that it wouldn't work because they're all so different. But it's interesting. My daughter said to me recently, she said there was a turning point for her when she realized that we weren't just her parents, that we were human. And I was like, oh, that's a really good thought process there because you put us on this parent pedestal or you do all of them wrong, whatever it is. And then understanding, oh, wait, this is the first time you've done stuff like this. So, yeah, you're going to make mistakes. And no matter if you have one kid or six kids, you're going to make mistakes because every kid is different. It doesn't matter how much you've worked on something with one kid, it's going to be completely different with the next one.
That was humbling for me because with my daughter, when she was born, we got each other. When she would grunt, I'd be like, okay, she's hungry. We had that connection. And I was like, I am a superior mother because this baby is so happy and so contented. And then I had my son, and I love that kid, but he's either the happiest person in the world or the unhappiest person in the world.
Mm.
And he'll flip that switch in a heartbeat. And as an infant, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I do not know what just changed that this child is screaming now and he's fed and he's diapered and he's warm and he's swaddled and he's still screaming at me. And it was such an eye opener to be like, you know what? Sometimes you can't help someone. Sometimes they're in a place where they just need to scream it out and you can be there for them and you can hold space for them, but you can't fix it. You can't change it. And that's okay.
I always called myself a fixer. That's my thing. I want to fix everything as a parent. And that's not real life. Your kids have to learn how to fail, they have to learn how to pick themselves back up. We talk about this a lot, the idea of the participation trophy. That did not happen when I was a kid. You didn't get a trophy for showing up. You got a trophy if you were the best. And when they gave awards out at the end of the season, most of the people didn't get anything. It was like the MVP, and that's about it. But now you show up and you get a trophy. So I think a lot of times our kids have this idea that everybody gets something no matter how hard you work or how whatever you do, and that's not real life.
My son is super competitive in BJJ. He does BJJ 7 days a week. Like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is his world. And it's amazing how good of a loser it has made him.
Mm.
So when it's just two people on a mat together, minute differences and like snap decisions can make the entire difference in how a match plays out. And when he first started, he was in that mentality of, I've always got to win. And now he'll be like, ah, you know what? Ref made the right call. It was a tough call, but he made the right call. And next time I know not to give him my arm in this situation. It's cool to watch that evolution. Every time I fail, sit with it and I'm like, okay, what's my takeaway here? Because if I don't find the takeaway, then I've lost the most important part of this. The true gift of it. It's not the winning, it's the how does it push me to grow?
Yeah, it really is the gift of failure. It's changing your perspective on failure. So the method that I created, the second part of it, it's called the real method. Respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. So that second piece, embrace your failures. People are like, why would I want to embrace my failure? That's how you learn. That's how you grow. It's a bump in the road. What do you do different next time instead of saying, I'll never try anything again? And it's a perspective shift on saying that fail forward and that failure is growth.
And that's the secret to success. Any highly successful person has a long list of failures behind them. Michael Jordan talks openly about his failures. There was a famous coach, and he said his only secret to success was that he was too stupid to quit when he failed. And that's true. If you're too stupid to quit when you fail, then you just keep pushing. You're like, okay, that's one of my failures in that process that's going to get me there. And what do I learn from this failure? They hurt, they sting, but it's a valuable part of the process.
Feel the emotions and move forward. A great example is the founder of Spanx. When she was little, her dad would ask the kids, what did you fail at today? And the only time he would be upset is if they didn't fail at something, because that means they weren't trying. So that idea of celebrating failures, even my daughter, her first grade teacher, celebrated when they made a mistake. If they came up to the board and did a math problem and did it wrong, the whole class would clap. So it would make kids want to go up there and try because Otherwise, you go up there, you make a mistake, and you're like, no, you did it wrong, sit back down again. But they'd be like, good try. And so I think that is important to really look at failures. Okay, what did I learn from it? How do I do it different next time?
I love that because we do that when he loses BJJ competitions, but it's something that I learn from too. When he gives me what he's learned from it, lots of times I can find places in my life where I'm like, you know what? This connects through to my life. And so it's not just his failure that's pushing his growth, it's his failures pushing growth for all of us.
It's that whole modeling component, right? I mean, you see this all the time in different races when someone's struggling and a racer will give up their position to help this person, or like in all of these different things where you lose in a way where you congratulate the other person. It's not their fault that you lost, right? And
Yeah.
so being that good sport about things and saying, okay, you deserve that. And next time, can't wait to see you back in the ring. I'm going to work a little harder next time instead of saying, oh, you didn't deserve that.
Yeah. One of Ben's coaches does this thing. And at first, I was not certain what I thought about it. He likes to put kids up against much larger opponents. And at first, like my kid is tall, but he's very lanky. He's about 90 pounds soaking wet, and he's taller than I am. And he's nothing but legs. And so I watched him go up against this kid, and I asked the kid's mom, I was like, how much does he weigh? And he's about 180. So that's twice what
Oof.
he weighs. And he was just wiping the mat with him. And when Ben came off that day, it was one of the first classes with this new gym. And Ben, I'm never going back. And I was like, you know what? We've paid for this first week. Let's get at the end of the first week. Let's see what you think. And every single day he would go up against this kid and he'd be like, this is awful. I hate it. I'm going to see it through to the end of the week because you told me I had to, but I'm never going back. I respect that. We get to the end of the first week, and every single day he's been handed his ass by this kid, painful and
Mm.
creative ways. And the kid comes over and he says, you did an amazing job this week. You coming back next week? And Ben's, yeah. We're coming back next week, and it's now his favorite gym. That's one of his favorite people to go up against. I don't know that he has ever beaten the kid, but what it has done is it has taught him so much about strategy against a larger opponent and resilience, and it has completely changed his approach. I give the coach credit because as a mom, I watch the two of them go at it and I'm like, oh man. But when
Yeah.
they get into competitions, he's used to competing against a much larger opponent. When he's against an opponent his own size, it's nothing. He just blows right through it. I love applying that to myself. I have always looked for things that get me out of my comfort zone. Podcasting. I've cried more over editing and figuring out technology components of podcasting than I probably have with anything else in life. It was a huge step out of my comfort zone, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it and it's pushed me to grow so much. And I love finding things where I'm up against an opponent that is insurmountable and then finding a way through it to make my own success from it.
I think it's so important. There's so many things that I do now that are outside my comfort zone. Writing a book, hosting a podcast. Now I'm doing coaching, but I'm creating this new group coaching course and I have to set up this whole CRM for it. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to learn. I'm going to outsource. I cannot learn one more thing. My brain is full with the book launch coming up. I'm like, this is too much. But there's so many things that I do now where I'm like, okay, I'm going to teach myself that. I think that's the attitude that we should have. It doesn't matter how old you are. You can teach yourself things. You can learn new things. You can't teach an old dog new tricks. That is not true. Yes, you can. Not that I'm calling myself an old dog. You have to want to do it. That's part of it too, is that a lot of things that we do because we think we have to instead of asking ourselves what we want. I love the podcasting piece and I love that I get to do it with my daughter because seeing her grow in that respect has been really fun.
That's so cool. I've talked with my daughter about doing it, but we've never actually gone down the path of doing it. Tell me more about that because I'm curious.
Yeah, so we've been doing it for 2 years. It started off where we would have conversations and we're like, oh, these could really benefit somebody. Why don't we start recording them? And we started doing Instagram lives. And then we said, you know what, let's make it into a full-fledged podcast. It started off, we called it the Daughter Dearest Podcast. But what we're really doing is helping her build confidence. And so now it's called Her Unshakable Confidence, trying to get her quicker there than I did. So every other week, it's just the two of us. And then the next week, we have a guest. And it's been really fun. And seeing both of our growths. It's not just her growth, but like I learn so much, especially when we have guests on, from different opinions and how she processes information. It's been great for us. Of course, I have 6 kids, not the other 5 don't want anything to do with it. My oldest daughter actually came on the podcast once and she was like, "Oh my gosh, that was awful. I don't know how you guys like to do this. It's so stressful." But it's been a really nice, and even though she's in law school, we still make sure that we get all our recordings in so that we can drop an episode every week.
That's really cool.
That's really fun.
That's good. As I said, I keep trying to talk my daughter into it. I need her to lead the editing. I just don't have the bandwidth for anything else, but I would love to have that time capsule
Mm.
with her.
I think it will be fun later for grandkids to listen back to these episodes. If she has kids, it'd be like, "Oh my gosh, you talked to your mom when you were 20, you wanted to have a podcast with your mom." It'll be really interesting dynamics as she has kids, if she has kids. And it is part of your legacy, right? What you're
Yeah.
leaving behind for other people to hear.
It's something we are uniquely capable of in this time that I don't think any generation before us had such readily available technology to leave behind a memento of who we are and what we think and what we're about.
You could write things, but that idea of the recordings, I saw something really cool today that my husband sent me. It's some AI program where it can take old photos and make them into really short clips. So you put in an old photo, maybe it was my parents' wedding photo from the 1960s, and it makes it come alive. So it's like him
Wow.
putting the ring on her finger. That is really cool. There's a lot of things that people don't like about AI, but I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool feature. Or a picture of a baby and then it shows the baby crawling.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, I know. So
AI
many
is
things out there
incredible.
you can do. Yeah.
It's always fascinating to see what people come up with to do with AI, but it's very cool. So tell us a little bit about your book.
My second book comes out in February. My first book is called The Extraordinary Unordinary You. Follow your own path, discover your own journey. It's all about realizing what you're capable of and recognizing that the little things you do every day matter. I think so often we focus on big, grand gestures, and the big philanthropists need to take a step back and realize that the little things we do every day really impact our lives, other people's lives, how we treat ourselves, how we treat other people. Those are the things that really matter. And then my second book is called Real Confidence, A Simple Guide to Go from Unsure to Unshakable. And that comes out on February 17th. So it's pre-order now. It's based on my real method. So the respect yourself, embrace your failures, ask yourself what you want, and live without limits. It's broken into 4 sections based on those pillars. And it's really about building confidence from the inside out. Confidence is a skill that we build. It's not something that you're born with. When is someone is truly confident is because they work on it. Just like going to the gym, like you work on building your confidence, which starts with self-respect.
What is it that led you to build your own confidence? Because
Mm.
so many of us go through life and we don't.
It was the realization of what I was hiding behind. I was at this women's event and people always thought that I was really strong and had it all together. They showed this video, which was the Colby Calais Try, her music video. In that video, it's like women peeling back the layers, taking off the makeup, taking off everything fancy, and just being who they really are. That really hit me with the wave of, okay, you are pretending. Stop pretending and talk about what you struggle with. Struggled with weight my whole life. I had my whole list of the things that I struggled with. And my friends were like, what is happening here? Because I started crying. They're like, wait, she doesn't cry. What is happening? Why is she crying? And it was that moment where I was able to sit there in my truth. And what was really interesting is I always thought like everybody has this perfect life and mine just isn't, right? And as soon as I started talking, they started talking and sharing the things they struggled with. And I was like, I had no idea. And that kind of really made me think about things differently to say, wait, okay, I am not alone in this and I need to be myself. And how do I move forward? And really that the climbing Kilimanjaro piece was the way I moved forward. So really being asked to do that and putting myself out there, accomplishing it, but it was that first step, right? It's the first step to the action that you take is the confidence that you build. We can talk about things all day long, but if you don't actually take that first step, then you're not moving forward. For me, I was just at a point where I felt like I need to stop pretending. It was really interesting because my husband said he knew me well, but he's, I didn't know how much stuff you were hiding behind. And I said, yeah, I was pretty good at it, wasn't I? I think we all get pretty good at it.
I absolutely agree. It's interesting because I have made a career now out of talking about the ugly parts of life. But when I had my accident, I had created this entire facade to cover the fact that I was raised in abuse. My parents did it. And growing up, I thought that everyone else has got this perfect life. And if I can just put a good enough facade on it, then I will fit in. That was my biggest thing I wanted my entire life, was just to fit in, just to be like everyone else, not to be the kid that was dirty or hungry or beaten or sexually abused or any of those things that had secrets to hide. I just wanted to be like everyone else and have a quote unquote normal life. And when I had my accident, it messed with my memory. I started social media as a daily time capsule. So if I ever lost my memory again, I would have something to go back to. I talked about the hard parts. It was my daily diary. I didn't think anyone would ever look at it. I now have about 850,000 followers. They pushed me to start podcasting. It's built on being unapologetically true and standing in my truth of whatever it is I'm going through. It's shown me how to look for the joy in the tough moments, because anybody can struggle. Anybody can have a tough time. Anybody can stick a happy face on it. But the joy is an internal job, and it's what really makes the difference between existing and thriving. I'm the only one that can make certain that I look for the joy in an everyday experience. No one else can do that for me. I look back and I'm so grateful for the fact that I'm unapologetically who I am. I have plenty of people that don't care for me. That's fine. That's a them issue. I have plenty of people who look at me and judge me, and that's fine too. It really doesn't impact my life. I'm so grateful for the accident that took away so much of me, but those were the pieces that were holding me back. It's interesting to hear that for you, it was a moment of watching a video and it just clicked for you, and you were like, yeah, this no longer serves me.
Yeah, my backstory, and this is something that I hadn't told anybody but my husband and my kids, is that I had an abusive relationship in high school from the time I was 15 to 18. And it really destroyed my self-esteem. I didn't have self-worth. The things that he would say to me were, you wouldn't say that to your worst enemy. So it was really a struggle to build myself back up. Now, the problem is that I didn't address it for a long time. And that's really why I struggled for so long, because I just hid behind whatever I needed to hide behind instead of saying, here's what I'm struggling with. Here's what I went through. In this next book, I talk outright about it. I tell the whole story. And I think it's important to share. Now, obviously, not all women will ever feel comfortable sharing an abuse story, and that's fine too. But I think that it's important to find someone that you can trust to tell your truth to, because when you keep it inside, it's so hard to feel good. And that was me.
It's the thing that I had to learn was that my silence only served them. It didn't serve
Mm,
me. Compounding the issue, because by hiding the truth, it took me, I just recently came to terms with the fact that my father was sexually abusive. And it was during an interview. And it was one of those things where I had known, but I hadn't really known. I had all these sketchy memories, but with abuse, at least the physical and the verbal abuse, I have specific memories where I'm like, yes, he said these things and this is how it felt. And with the sexual piece, it was much more nebulous. It was much harder to pin down. And in talking with a woman, she's now the number one trauma therapist in Australia. And she got there by discovering her own sexual abuse and being open about it. And as she was going through the signs of how you identify if you've been sexually abused, each one I was like,
mm.
yep. And she stopped the interview and she's like, I'm watching your face and you're dealing with something right now. And when you're ready to talk about it, reach out to me. But so many of us carry heavy things and we think we're the only ones and we think
Mm.
we have to carry it in silence. By you stepping up and being open about your abuse, you're going to give women who aren't ready to talk about it yet license to stand in their own truth and say, you know what, I had this hard thing too.
I talked about it on our podcast all the time, or when I'm on as a podcast guest, but I talked about it only one time on stage, not because I've chosen not to talk about it, but it was a different speech that I was giving. What was really interesting is two things happened from it. One, as soon as I got through the story about him, I froze because I realized, wow, I've never said this to strangers before. And obviously, I regrouped, I was fine. And then the second thing that was really interesting is I had so many people afterwards come up to me and say, I had a John. I had a similar relationship, or my daughter really struggled with somebody, and they wouldn't have said it otherwise. Give yourself permission to talk about what you struggle with. It gives permission to other people to feel comfortable to be able to share.
Absolutely. And it's the two-sided gift. It's a
Mm,
gift to them to know that they're not alone and that it's a safe thing to share. And it's a gift to you because you're bringing light and air into this thing that's been festering, and it makes it so much lighter. Like
yeah.
every single time I put it out there, it's always scary. I don't think I'll ever get to a place where it's not scary to say it openly. But every single time I say it openly, it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah. I don't think I find it scary anymore. I find it part of my story, and it's not something that controls me anymore. So that's why I feel like it's gotten a little bit easier to say it because I'm not worried about it anymore. And it's always amazing to me, though, when you talk to other women and they're like, oh, yeah, let me tell you my story now. And you're like, wow, I would have never guessed, never guessed. Yeah.
We are an incredibly resilient creature. It's amazing. And men too. Interview with a man who's now pushing billionaire status, and he was in prison, and one of the first things he said very openly was, I was raped by a man. And he said, I get that out of the way because it is one of the hardest things to put out there. But once you started with that, then everything else is easy.
Mm,
And I was like, that's powerful.
yeah.
We are an amazing creature. It's humanity, the things we do to one another, but then the way that we use it to grow is incredible. Simone, one thing that I always love to ask people at the end, because I always get the most fascinating responses, is if you had to leave us with one thought that encapsulates what you want people to take from this discussion, what would it be?
I love saying this, and I think it's so true. And this is something that I had to learn to say to myself was that you don't need to change who you are. You need to change the way you see yourself. We talk so much about, oh, you got to change this and you got to change that, and this person's doing this. And it's no, that's not what you need. You need to look in the mirror and say, wow, I am beautiful as I am. I am smart. I am capable, all of the things because of who I am and not because someone else told me.
Thank you so much for this. This was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Caroline's Adventure podcast. While you're here, subscribe to the show so you're the first to catch new episodes when they're released. And if you enjoyed hanging out with me today, please leave a 5-star rating. For links to social media and more content, visit the description for this episode or go to carolinesadventure.com. That's Caroline with 2 A's, adventure.com.